This is straight up the type of fight that gets me out of bed in the morning. We have D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez, taking on Lokomotivo, Nicolas Dalby, a match straight up, I have to say. These are two of my favorite fighters to watch. Nicolas Dalby is an all-action type of guy. You saw that, unfortunately, in his last fight against Canada's Jesse Ronson. But I mean, before that, the fights that he had after leaving the UFC. The Carlo Pedersoli fight is insane. You have to watch it. Then he loses that fight. I mean, he does not win. It's a very good fight. He loses a split decision. He takes on Roberto Allegretti, wins. Philip Malpater wins. Alex Lahore, might know him, wins. Ross Houston, too much blood on the canvas, no contest. Alex Oliveira in the return to the UFC, and he beats him. That was like a crowning achievement type of fight because it was over in Denmark. You had the Danish fighter. It was wild. It was a really close fight. And he wins that one. He's supposed to take on Hot Chocolate Danny Roberts. Fight falls out due to the pandemic that we live in. And then he loses to Ronson. Matt, Nicolas Dalby is an all-action and all-heart type of fighter. He will withstand anything. Can you tell me a little bit more about Nicolas Dalby?
I definitely can. Now, Nicolas Dalby is one of those guys who, the whole time he was outside the UFC, you're just waiting, like, okay, when is Nicolas Dalby going to come back? And I know the Pedersoli loss was kind of bad. Now, personally, I wasn't all that high on Pedersoli, so I was like, I wonder if we'll ever get, the old Nicolas Dalby back. And no, he started stringing off wins, started looking better, and just kind of looking more comfortable in the cage as his career progressed. Now, the Alex Oliveira fight is a very interesting fight because, yes, he did well in some of those moments, but Alex Oliveira, even at that stage in his career, was able to put it on Dalby at a few moments. And Nicolas Dalby is very open to the brawl. You said it perfectly, really. Nicolas Dalby kind of invites that style of fight. And against the Alex Oliveira's of the world, against, the Alex Lahores of the world, you can get away with that. Daniel Rodriguez is a different kind of animal when it comes to those brawling type fights, because Daniel Rodriguez, is he going to wow you with his technique and precision? Not at all. Is he going to wow you with his power, though? Yes, he will. He throws not really a left hook or an overhand left. It's very similar to kind of a Robbie Lawler shovel hook where it's coming at you from an odd angle, but he kind of sneaks it under guards really well. And when he does throw it, he throws every ounce of his shoulder into that punch. Like, if it hits you, you're going down. Now, here's the great news. If you're a really high-level striker, let's say you're, I know we say him a lot, but like Vicente Luque always comes to my mind for really good Muay Thai in this division. You can just duck a lot of those punches, hit him to the body, kick his legs, and you'll probably be okay. But for a guy like Nicolas Dalby, who is very open to that style of fight, who doesn't really have the same power that a Daniel Rodriguez has, because this is the problem with Dalby. He'll have those fights. We all love him because of it. We know he's very, go out on his shield type of a fighter. But with Daniel Rodriguez, you don't want to be fighting that style of a fight. If you do, you want to be the one controlling the dance and leading the action. If Nicolas Dalby can back up Daniel Rodriguez, he might have some success. It's just really concerning that Nicolas Dalby has kind of decided to take this route in fighting. And if Jesse Ronson can hurt you, Daniel Rodriguez can put you to sleep.
Now, Matt, this year for referees and judges has been very strange. I mean, we've seen winners and losers, and maybe some of the guys that got pushed to the wayside. Everybody loved Keith Peterson until that fight that Dominic Cruz had, where apparently he smelled like cigarettes and booze. I wasn't there. Allegations only. Kevin McDonald decided to grow out the fruit salad in the back and sport a Fu Manchu.
I respect it.
We don't really see him all that much at UFC events anymore. But if there's a winner out of all of the referees in 2020, it's Chris Tognoni. And Matt, Chris Tognoni really gained his crown as an all-action type of referee, letting him have it. He's like a pro wrestling referee. He's like Mike Chioda. In the fight between Dwight Grant and Daniel Rodriguez, you want to have some fun? You like Fight Night picks? I will allow it. Pause us here and go back and watch Dwight Grant, Daniel Rodriguez. Rodriguez is feeling it. Back and forth. Moving really well on the feet. Gets caught hot and heavy. And Matt, I was surprised that Chris Tognoni didn't end that fight. Dwight Grant had him dead to rights. But Daniel Rodriguez rallied. He put that rally cap on, as we love to see people do. Throw it on, Matt, for the boys. There we go. You look silly, but it's right.
It's all good.
Chris Tognoni let that fight continue, and man, Daniel Rodriguez came back. Grant was a little bit tired, but Rodriguez rocked him and really poured it on. Got the finish there at the 2-minute and 24 mark of the first round.
A lot happened in a very short amount of time.
Now, please fix your hat. The weird thing for Daniel Rodriguez was, and again, a lot of people pointed this out, his way up to the UFC didn't really take on the best level of competition. We talked about the Cosce brothers. I mean, he lost to Victor Reina. That's the only loss on Daniel Rodriguez's record. But coming into the UFC, beats Tim Means as an underdog. Then he's supposed to take on Kevin Holland. That fight falls out. He gets Gabe Green, and you might go, Gabe Green. I know we did. Hey, all honesty, we went Gabe Green. Rodriguez is going to cruise through this one. He did not. Gabe Green put on a great performance, so kudos to Gabe Green. So Rodriguez wins that. Then he draws Takashi Sato. And you go, oh, well, that's going to be a really competitive fight. We made a prediction video about it. That fight falls out. Dwight Grant's supposed to be taking on Jared Gooden, who's on this card. That fight falls out. So Rodriguez gets Grant, and we get a banger. Overall, in this fight, I'm excited because Daniel Rodriguez was supposed to be taking on Bam Bam, Brian Barberena. That fight fell out, so we get Nicolas Dalby. So again, we have an all-action type of matchup here, Matt. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that overall, it's a great fight. It's one that everybody can look forward to. I am a little bit surprised by the odds because Daniel Rodriguez opened a minus 230 average on best fight odds. He's now at a minus 343. If we have a look at Nicolas Dalby, he opened the underdog at a plus 195. He's now at a plus 274. And if we look at the Tapology votes, Matt, the night is young. 306 total votes, 88% going Rodriguez, 76% going by knockout. I know that the, recency bias, Nicolas Dalby had that fight against Jesse Ronson, didn't go all that well. But Matt, let's just look at it in a perfect world. Let's say we get 100% Rodriguez, we get 100% Dalby. What do you think we're going to get in terms of a fight in this one?
I'm sorry, we can't look at it that way because we're not getting 100% of Nicolas Dalby at this point, I don't think. I think after that Ronson loss, I'm really down on him, and maybe I'm putting too much into that one performance, but I watched Daniel Rodriguez get caught clean on the chin by Dwight Grant, who, yes, maybe his fights aren't all that exciting.
He hits like a Mack truck when he does.
Exactly. When he does decide to throw, he's extremely explosive. And for Daniel Rodriguez to not only overcome that, but to basically drop Grant with the first punch that he lands after he gets back up to his feet, quite spectacular. And Dalby, this is the type of fight that he can win. And this can sound very cliche, but this is one of those Nicolas Dalby fights where no one thinks he's going to win. And he probably gets dropped in the first round. Daniel Rodriguez gets tired. Nicolas Dalby rallies. I just don't see it that way anymore. I think maybe 3 years ago, and if Nicolas Dalby had taken a little bit less damage throughout his career, maybe that's what we would get. But unless Dalby is able to weather that massive storm that comes in that first round and a half, I just don't see it coming for him. So it is going to be hard for me to pick against Daniel Rodriguez. And here's the other thing for Rodriguez. You can knock out Tim Means. You can do it. He's a very good striker, but he can get caught just like anybody. Daniel Rodriguez not only dropped him, he submitted him as well. That's exactly what I was getting to. He submitted him too. So Nicolas Dalby, if he is starting to get beat up on the feet and he goes for a takedown, Daniel Rodriguez has very good defensive submissions. So it's just really hard to pick against Daniel Rodriguez. I wouldn't put any money on this fight just due to the fact that Rodriguez's cardio is a bit of a question mark, but I like Rodriguez in this fight.
Matt, this is my fight of the night. I think this is an awesome fight and you cannot miss it. Daniel Rodriguez, all action. Nicolas Dalby, crafty. As long as he doesn't get knocked out, crafty. So for Dalby to win, I would kind of point to the Gabe Green fight and the fight that Dalby had against Alex Oliveira. Really implement your total game plan into this one. I know Rodriguez had that standing guillotine against Tim Means, and if you look at him, he can get hit for sure. He does have decent head movement, and he moves great back and forth. He can move side to side quite well. And I mean, hey, if you're training with Joe Schilling all the time, you're going to be tough. But overall, Dalby, if he can really implement his full game plan, there's a path to victory there. But I also like Daniel Rodriguez in this one, Matt. It's an all-action type of fight. You cannot miss this one. And you can't miss a lot of this card. And by a lot of this, you shouldn't miss any of it. It's a great one. A lot of under-the-radar fights. So make sure you keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. We're both going Daniel Rodriguez. 2 title fights, main event, co-main event at flyweight. Keep locked in with Fight Night Picks. And as we always say, let's get into it.